Go for it.
Hi guys. Welcome and joining us for day two of the Smiskin Community League. We've got Rising Sun Gaming versus Insomnia Gaming today. This is the second game of a possible best out of three set. We're just looking at some picks and bans now. So we've got two mage bans coming out from the side of Rising Sun. That's a Freya and a Morrigan. And we're seeing a Kumba and Mercury very targeted bans on the side of Insomnia Gaming there, as those were both picked up in the match yesterday. Seeing Aokwang and Bakasura as well, trying to target down some of those more bursty assassins.
Casting today, you've got me, Sam, and Rob again coming back for game two. Oleron's picked up a very powerful pick, I would say, in the mid lane, especially with the Ring of Hecate. Very powerful with the amount of attack speed and lifesteal that you can get from that one item, pushing those magical ADCs back into the meta.
We're seeing a Rama locked in from the side of Insomnia. As a very strong pick, especially when paired up with the Darji for that CC. Be a very lethal combo.
And what I think is different from the Artemis we had last game is the Ram has that role for safety. It has a way of escaping possible plucks from the Sobek or just ganks in general outside of a speed up or the ultimate where you're waiting for rank 5.
It's definitely the opposite of Oleron, who's very immobile and just has to try and fight his way out. We're seeing a Cupid being hovered. That's another hunter with a good escape.
Now the
Gonna
Cupid,
get locked in.
I imagine, would be going to ADC, but you could also put him in the mid with that ability damage with the heart bomb and the heal he has. But I would imagine you see him in the ADC lane pushing down against this Ram, and you would see the Oleron going towards that mid lane.
To note here, last match, we know Insomnia Gaming did have a sub on their team. This match, we have the opposite. So Team Rising Sun, they've got the sub, I believe, in for their AD carry.
It should be interesting to see if that dominant lane from last match would transfer over to perhaps Insomnia Gaming. Maybe they would pull something out of the bag and be able to throw it back. We have a Nox locked in from mid laner, a very powerful mid laner, especially with that big, large silence, can disrupt a lot going on in big team fights.
I think that Nox is definitely going to do a good job out clearing the Oleron as well, if that is an Oleron in mid lane.
With the possible bans coming through, we have Arachne and Kuzumbo, two very interesting picks. Arachne scales very well throughout the game and has that auto attack with all the steroids on her. They are quite powerful and gets very deadly into the late game. And Kuzumbo has a lot of disruption and can't think of the word.
It just sort of gets in the way.
Yeah,
And it can take a lot of hits.
it can force you out of position and make you into a place you don't want to be, push you towards the enemy team. And what's also interesting with both the Kuzumbo and the Xingqian is you can both have them in either support or solo. So with those two positions left for Insomnia Gaming, I see Rising Sun trying to push them and try and get more of an interesting comp out of them. I would be interested to see if we have the Hades come back again from Winter Queen like we did last game, which did a very good job into that Sun Wukong.
It's also interesting to look at the 4 assassin bans from Insomnia Gaming. They're really trying to lock down, I believe, Sleeping Wolf on the jungle role.
With the Ymir picked up, I could see that going to the, again, an interesting pick that could either be a solo or a support. I would imagine it would be support with that sort of wall to try and block the Cupid escape and stop Sobek plucks, and just sort of having that blocking potential in the match.
2 warriors being hovered at the moment. Perhaps not. Sun Wukong and Anubis. I think Anubis is a pretty strong pick if it goes up in the mid lane against Nox. So perhaps we'll see Oleron in solo, maybe, or Anubis in solo. It's a very interesting composition here.
This is a very, very interesting competition. One of those is a jungler. I would be hesitant to say either the Anubis or the Sun Wukong being the jungler. Warrior jungles are quite powerful and have decent scaling in both physical protections and
Well, here we go. It will be Anubis in the jungle. A very interesting choice there, and I'll be interested to see how that one works out. Very strong gank potential if he hits the Mummify. And we did miss the King Arthur pickup on the side of Winter Queen in the solo lane.
King Arthur's an interesting one. He took a bit of a nerf with Gladiator Shield being changed, stopping potential healing outcome. But on the flip side, you do have the pickup of Soul Eater coming back into the meta now, a way of not getting the mana from your abilities, but being able to get the healing and sustain at least a little bit from your abilities going forward into that match.
I think Sun Wukong against King Arthur would definitely be a big beat-up brawl in the solo lane. And I think it'd be interesting to watch the duo lane, especially with that change in dynamic with the substitute player coming in.
I believe, I believe from the look of the matchup, I think Croton is the ADC player, so we'll see an Oleron and ADC, and we'll see a Cupid inside of the mid lane, like I said, with that very powerful heart bomb damage to try and disrupt the wave, as well as the large cripple field from his ult. You can disrupt a lot and potentially cause a lot of damage in mid to late game ganks going forward.
Especially if you think about that cripple with all the dashes on Insomnia's side, it just locks them all down. The Rama, the Daji, the Nox. It just says, you're staying in here and you're fighting with me. She's very strong, especially with an Anubis as well. Just pumping that damage out.
Now, the Nubis is a very interesting pick, I think, because it's one that is he's not very mobile. He doesn't have an escape. His way of escape is just to basically try and out damage you and try and bring you down while life stealing off you to win the fight. So it'll be interesting to see how he's played in the jungle, where usually a lot of the characters have a lot of mobility, a lot of ways of running around quickly and getting into that lane and being able to get from one side of the lane to the other before the other team notices to get this gank off. I think he's a very powerful jungler, but it'll be interesting to see how he's played and if he's played effectively.
Hopefully we should be hopping into game shortly. I think people are still loading in, perhaps.
Now, what's interesting to note on the side of Insomniac Gaming is the King Arthur always has been a strong pick in that solo lane. Now he's, like I said before, he's been slightly nerfed with the Glad Shield changes, but he still does bring high power potential with the four abilities, which can combo into four more abilities, each one doing different types of CC with the spin to win stripping protections, the cripple from the cone, and the ability to have two different ultimates depending on how much your ability is hit and how much damage you do. Could be very interesting going into the further game, see how much power that brings in and how much change in dynamic it could bring for this team.
We are hopping in now. I think people are still connecting, but hopefully we should get started shortly. I think, yeah, so it'll be interesting to see who gets that early lead. Perhaps it won't be quite as dominant as the last match we saw. I'm expecting it to be perhaps that duo lane holding back a little bit on Insomnia's side. Or perhaps the substitution will mean that they'll try and fight into that because perhaps they wouldn't have had as much practice with their substitute player.
And that is, I think, the downside of having a substitute player is you bring someone in that you wouldn't have the chance to practice with and try and slot them into your team, see how that affects your communication, and see how that affects your gameplay.
Definitely felt like the game yesterday. There was that bit of perhaps missed communication or something between the duo lane, and that could just be down to not being able to practice with the substitute. We see people starting to roll out of base now. I think Anubis will definitely rely on that speed buff throughout the game. Like I said, he's not a very mobile character, but he does a lot of damage. So if he can get to the right places in the map, make a big impact, lock people down with the Mummify, and hopefully get some kills. Although Darji is a very threatening character to try and duel into.
Especially with the ultimate to drag you out of position, to force that beads and the actives off the certainly squishy characters. This Cupid, this Oleron, potentially even the Anubis if he's caught out of position and in a difficult way. We have a slight boxing match going on between the Sun Wukong and the Arthur on the solo side, but apart from that, they've sort of eased off, and we're getting right into the first buffs.
See identical starts from both teams. Seems fairly standard at this mid-season patch. I think people have just take the buffs, go straight into lane. I think there's been a lot of contention as to whether solo laners should start in the blue or start in the wave. But I think both of King Arthur and Sun Wukong both like a blue buff.
And as you can see now, you're starting to get you can start to see how this sub is doing in this lane, especially with the power of Oleron with the early game aggression, which will only really scale into the later game and make it more damaging, especially with being one of the only magical crit ADCs in the game.
King Arthur's getting really low on the solo side, but I think Sun Wukong is just going to clear the wave and perhaps try and pick a frag early on, get the snowball rolling. There's a lot of poke coming out from Sun Wukong.
And I think the bonus with King Arthur in this position is you have the ability of, you level 1 ability at level 1, but it gives you 2 to help you sort of clear that wave quicker. Whereas on the Sun Wukong, you level your 1.
We see a big block in the duo lane. Rama's out of position, and he does go down to the Oleron there. I think that early pressure from the duo lane coming out from Rising Sun, very akin to the game yesterday. We are going to see a game from Darji coming in with the dash. She's going to pick up a kill here on the Oleron. The safety plug there from the Sobek to peel.
Very good peel from the Sobek there, knowing that Darji is going to keep slapping and just sort of get them away. Doesn't really set anything up, but doesn't want to. Just wants them to stop the damage onto the Oleron and help him scale into that mid to late game.
And you know, Oleron and Sobek, both characters with pretty healthy sustain, so they just wanted to get that pick, get out of there, and try and disengage. And that's a very good stat line to be at the end of the game. And we are on pause now, getting back into the game. So we see the gank coming in from Oleron and Sobek. Does get frozen, but Rama's taking a lot of damage. And we do see the pluck, and he's going to go down there to the Oleron's damage.
On the flip side of that, we've seen King Arthur manage to escape his gank attempt, and the Darji is coming over to try and help him secure his blue.
He is teleporting back in, so maybe we can see a 2v2 fight here. Darji's getting very low. Did miss the Mummify on the Anubis there. Taking a lot of damage from King Arthur's abilities. See a re-engage here from the Sun Wukong. And they're just going to walk out of there. No kills in the solo lane. They were just looking to get that blue buff down and then get some poke off, but not worry about it too much.
And there you can see the sort of potency of King Arthur with all those abilities that he can use when he can. All the different CC from the knock up, the cripple, the protection shred. He has a lot of items he can use to his disposal to try and lock down and secure the small buffs. So in this case, Totem of Coup, and hopefully you can scale that into team fights later on.
So we are probably going to see a gank in the duo lane with Darji creeping through the jungle. Perhaps she'll try and look to pick up the Oleron if everyone engages at once. So she's still level 4 though, doesn't have the ultimate, and we do see Oleron's ult coming out. It's a very devastating tempo shift there.
Meanwhile, with the Ram, aggressive dash in to try and make something happen, but Reese with the aggressive Sobek ults has managed to peel for his ADC once again.
And you see there, they tried to engage into it, they saw an opportunity with the gank, and ended up losing more from that. Very tricky situation.
And you can see here, although Fives on the Sun Wukong has this level advantage, he has lost lane pressure due to the sheer power that King Arthur can bring into a team fight.
So you're already starting to see the farm difference here. The XP and golds going the way of Team Rising Sun. You see a very aggressive Mummify into ultimate from Sleeping Wolf and picking up the kill there. Like I said, he's got the damage online. As soon as he hits that Mummify, you're in trouble if you don't have beads.
And it's starting to get to the point where, with that blink, he can now make these plays, and I expect him to make these plays as much as possible, trying to catch the mid laner, the ADC, just catch them off guard and try and get those advantages for his team and just push them further towards the victory and
Another
slowly
but Ymir is taking a lot of damage here. And those long range basic attacks from Oleron picking up the kill there. He's got a very out of position with the Sobek pluck into the Sobek knockup and into the Oleron knockup as well, and he was just way too out of position.
On the downside of it all, we can go to Ymir. Oh, on the right hand side we have Five is Alive on Sun Wukong taking out the King Arthur, which I believe was a solo kill. Of course, he has that high damage from the Tiger form and the ability to go into his ult and heal to try and beat the ult. It's a big heal and it gives you a lot of damage when you land, and it allows you to try and limit the King Arthur's damage and potentially stop him from using his ult in the flip side.
And we do see, now that we've got those few picks, Team Rising Sun moving on to objective focus, so with Oracles going their way, got mid Harpies and also the Totem of Q. Another aggressive Mummify into an ult, but Darji's going to ult in return and pick him up with those chains. Let's see what happens when the chains go. And he does go down. And she is crippled, but she managed to get out.
Good peel from the Nox there to try and limit the follow-up potential and just sort of push them off jungler in that situation.
Yeah, Nox's Night Terror Orb does reduce your damage dealt when you get hit by it, so that's a really good way of mitigating how much damage that team's putting out.
As I was going back to this Ymir in the ADC lane, he's a very powerful pick, but unfortunately compared to a lot of other Guardians, he lacks that mobility, so you can catch him out off guard and sort of pin him down. He's very...
You see that Ring of Facade coming out of Oleron now, and with his super long range basic attacks, he can do a lot of damage from range. And we do see Windscreen with a return kill in solo lane. Perhaps Sun Wukong stay there just a little too long, and managed to get picked up there. Totem will probably go their way as well. Bit of aggressive warding in the jungle there. Trying to make sure that lane is very gankable when they come back next time.
Not only does that aggressive warning allow you to see where different junglers are going and what they're trying to do, it allows you to see the objective and see if they're trying to make a play on it.
And again, Sleeping Wolf hitting those Mummifiers, getting Dudgy very low. But we're not going to see a pick up there as again Nox with the peel.
Now, not only was that a win to try and force the Darji away and limit what they can do, it also allowed them to secure that damage buff, which again further gives more farm towards that mid and jungler and takes it away from the opposition side mid and jungler.
We're going to see a purple buff invade here along with that damage buff, so Darji is going to be a bit scuppered here. There's a lot of buffs missing on that duo side of the map. You see King Arthur's a bit low on mana even though he's got all those abilities. He's going to fire off the ultimate.
And this is one of King Arthur's more powerful sides of it. It's his ultimate. Although it does have a very low cooldown, he can just keep building it up.
And there you go, with the help of the clone, Sun Wukong is going to clean up.
The difference of Sun Wukong is he has that heal, so when he gets low, he can either bait the King Arthur into an awkward situation, or he can and then go into that ult and heal and quickly slam down again and turn the fight into his
I see
favor.
Insomnia found Oleron on his own without his support. Darji's going to try and do some damage here. I think Oleron's using his ult to shoot to great effect there with the speed up. And he will take down the Darji there, just with that ring of the cape starting to pop off now. And Nox coming in just to make sure he stays dead. Although those Cupid and Sobek starting to come in just to try and clean up some kills perhaps, but Team Insomnia Gaming are just going to back off, take that little victory, take the shutdown gold, and back out of there.
And that is it. Although I would say that was probably a very expensive gank on that side, it allows you to try and slow down that Oleron gank late game, and allows you to try and reduce the catch up between that ADC and magical ADC in that lane.
Another return kill on the side of King Arthur. I think these guys are going to just keep going at it for the rest of the game, trading here and there. So both do a lot of damage in a very short time span, so it could go either way.
I think what's interesting on the pickup of the solo side is you have the King Arthur, which has picked up your traditional teleport glyph, allows you to teleport to towers and get there, whereas your Sun Wukong's gone for more of a blink.
Now we're going to see Sleeping Wolf again hitting those modifiers and under the tower that time because King Arthur was caught trying to proxy farm behind the tower. It gets caught out for it.
But with the difference of the two rates from the blink and the teleport, it allows you to get that that advantage in lane very quickly. You're not missing farm. You can get to your lane quicker than the Sun Wukong can, and when it's on cooldown, you're still walking.
Another gank in the mid lane for the Anubis, but he's going to just blink out as soon as he sees that Darji go up on the parallel. Although Sobek might look to cause some disruption in here. Nox is just going to dash into her friend, and they're both just going to leave.
Mummify off the mark there could have guaranteed a kill. With the 5 Light coming in to try and secure a kill with the Cupid ult also being used.
He's going to use all of his abilities just to try and secure it with the blink. Will get Darji away safely.
On the flip side though, you had that King Arthur also rotating in and picking up the Cupid on the back line while everyone's trying to push forwards.
Sobek's looking a little low. If Rama can get those triple arrows on, perhaps. He's going to use the dash defensively to save himself. Oleron's a little bit out of position, but is going to use the ult to just pump out that damage. Another Mummify onto Rama, has to beats for it. You can see Windscreen trying to cause some disruption, but just getting picked out there by 3 members.
And now I was going with the Anubis. He got turned on by that King Arthur, but just uses those abilities to try and turn the fight back, try and lifesteal your way back into the game, and just survive without the use of ability.
You can see a 12-minute Gold Fury here from Team Rising Sun. They're all pretty healthy, and they can just take that fairly confidently and just back off 11-4 at the scoreline.
A very heads-up play there. You reduce the ability of Insomniac Gaming coming in and trying stealing it. You know that the Darji's gone back. You know that you've just taken the Nox and the King Arthur off the board, and that Ram, I imagine it was coming back from base from that fight. You've taken them both low, so you've used that opportunity to sneak in and try and steal gold lead off the other opposition.
Definitely, we noticed this was one of Team Rising Sun's strong points in the last game, was that ability to get some picks in the fight here and there, and then back off and take objectives as you retreat. Just accentuate that gold lead.
And it's that that's part of the game. You've got to try and get these picks, but then see what you can get off them from either towers or objectives. You just try and, like you said, further push that lead into their favour. With an 8k lead in XP and a 6k in gold, you're looking at approximately, I'm just trying to do the maths.
An item and a half.
Yeah.
Gold.
Split between 5, you're probably looking at half an item. But that's the difference between a tier 2 item to a tier 3. It's certainly going to start packing in a punch in these team fights and pushing that lead into taking the advantage towards Rising Sun.
So I wonder if we can see Insomnia Gaming sort of learning from their last game, trying to get used to fighting on that back foot and being able to play safe, get what you can, and not get caught out too much. So we see like big rotations here, 4 on the duo side, while Windscreen's get very low on the solo side and will get picked up by 5s, but does get the tower for it.
For me, I don't think that is worth, but with the Daji going into the ult to try and limit what they can do, again with Sleeping Wolf and that Anubis, just going straight into the ult when in position to try and...
So even if he gets caught out, he can just out-damage it.
Just try and lifesteal your way through it. And with the lead he's gained from the ganks he's done throughout the map, he has now allowed himself to have these items to lifesteal more effectively and just sort of
Look at this
out-damage.
split push as well. There's only one member of Insomnia still standing. They look to get Fire Giant and left tower and right tower perhaps, claiming those objectives for their own now.
You can see on the map they've got aggressive warding to see when Insomnia Gaming tries to push in. And it should be a free Giant, but Sobek getting very low there. It's a free Fire Giant with not much opposition from Insomniac. Now with this Fire Giant they can start pushing down some of these tier 2s, and they have the sustain and power from it to try and cause these team fights just to further put Insomniac Gaming onto the back foot.
If you're Insomnia right now, what do you think's the play to sort of try and get back into this game and try and play it safe?
I think what they're doing at the moment is very good. I think they're trying to get the farm in the jungle where they can. They're doing these buffs while Rising Sun is backed off to get back to base, buy a few more items. They're trying to get all the farm they can. They're pushing up these lanes to make it harder for them to siege the T2s. I'll be interested to see if Insomniac Gaming try to defend the tier 2s with the deficit they have at the moment. You can see the Ymir here and the Ram potentially out of position.
Cool. There's so much damage going out from the side of Sleeping Wolf on the Anubis now. You've got to be careful because even just one Mummify out of position and he'll just death gaze you immediately.
Especially with the lead he's now got on his opposition jungler Daji, a 5-level difference. Especially with the damage that's going to happen coming out through that death gaze now is going to be a hell of a lot more, especially with the items he's building into as well. He's got the Bancross Talon online to give him extra life steal.
Yeah, Blink Daji ult coming out here. Doesn't really get too much out of it because the CC immunity inside of Team Rising Sun. Rama takes this guys and Daji's going to get picked up under tower. So I think as Rama comes down, he's probably in trouble. And there he goes.
I think a very good play there. Oh, in the mid lane we have the Knots getting pressured on by the Sun Wukong and Cupid, but has dashed away safely. I think that was a very heads-up play there from Sobek as well, going into that ult to try and get the increased protection to tank that tower longer to hopefully try and take the...
See that left Phoenix go to the side of Rising Sun there. And they're just going to, again, retreat off, claim some more objectives, reset, and then go back in and take some more. King Arthur's going to get caught up by 3 members, and even though King Arthur's tanky, he's not that tanky. They're going to take that tier 2 very quickly. Fire Giant's still going as well. They deal a lot of damage very quickly, so you've got to be very careful from Insomnia.
I think Rising Sun are playing this very cleanly here. They're taking their picks, they're taking fights when they know they have an advantage. A 3v2 in left with a tier 2. It's a very clean fight, and they've sort of pushed them off enough so they can take that Phoenix as well. One of the more important Phoenixes, especially when it comes to sieging Fire Giants, because now you're going to have someone on that left side just pushing those fire waves down. Try and stop them from breaking the base.
Definitely it's going to be very tricky with this consistent sieging from all lanes. You see that Sun Wukong is just split pushing on his own. And isn't too worried about getting caught out either with that eagle form. So Insomnia have just got to try and group up as much as they can, take picks when they can, catch people out of position, and try and take their own objectives.
And that is the advantage you have as a Song Wukong. You have that high damage from the Cudgel and the Spin to Win, as I like to call it, and the Tiger form and the Ox. But when you're caught out of position, you can use that Eagle form to just get away from danger very quickly, and it allows you to also reposition very quickly.
Again, Sleeping Wolf just doing so much damage at this point, cleaning up with that Death Gaze.
I think King Arthur there, pushing up the lanes, doesn't really have the ward coverage on that right-hand side to really know where the team is. And I think, as you can see here from the Eagle, can reposition, push off, and get the space needed for his team. But with the ward coverage, you can't really push up those lanes unless you know where the enemy team is. You need that vision to try and predict your next move.
You see, just as Insomnia's duo go back to try and defend that Phoenix, Team Rising Sun almost, you feel it coming and they back off, so as not to get caught out. Oleron on his own in the mid lane could be a bit risky here. He does so much damage that maybe he'll just be able to fight his way out.
Especially when you got a level 19 Oleron into what looks like a bunch of level 13s mainly. You got a 13 Rama, right, Darji, and a 12 Ymir. I wouldn't be surprised if he could outdamage at least 2 or 3 of them.
Especially with that increased healing as well, and Ring of Fate and all that magical lifesteal. Very difficult to deal with.
I think you can see here Rising Sun are starting to reset and getting ready for another Siege of the Fire Giant to finally push down those last 2 Phoenix, the last 2 structures on the map. They've taken down all the permanent ones, and they're now going to take the fight to the Fire Giant and try and get those last 2 and potentially.
See, Insomnia can't even contest that. You know, they've got their duo still busy dealing with fire minions, trying to deal with minions from mid lane as well. So they can't risk fighting that.
And that is why the left Phoenix is so much more important. You have to send someone over there to defend that side and stop the minions from either taking the Phoenix or flooding into the Titan.
And you see, like that left Phoenix will be coming up shortly, but there's a big fight happening over this right Phoenix, and it'll go down quite quickly. Yeah, we see Fields of Love and the Oleron ult coming out, covering a lot of space with those. Rama will get some snipes, and Nox will also pick up a kill there, which is really important to stop that siege damage. Ymir just trying to stall for time here until his teammates get back to defend this Titan.
I think with the 3v4 at the moment, I wouldn't be surprised if Rising Sun try and play this a bit cleanly, back off, try and get the last 2 Phoenix potentially with the Cupid damage, and the minions are slowly pushing up mid. Reset when they have that Oleron back, and then do one final push to try and finally break the base and get the win.
Yeah, I think that was a very clever play, backing off, dealing with that left Phoenix, making sure that just in case things go wrong around Titan, you've got that assurance of 2 fire minion lanes.
Safely get out into that lane as the match unpauses here.
It's going to be a full defense from Insomnia. All hands on deck, because those 2 waves of 2 lanes worth of fire minions are going to be constantly trying to hit that Titan while you've got the team running down mid.
The King Arthur still hasn't connected, so it's definitely going to be difficult. There's going to be a 4v4 fight with the Oleron potentially coming up from the base.
There you go, all 3 Phoenixes down. It's only a matter of time for the Insomnia's Titan. See the Field of Love come out and catch 2 of them, but the Darji will get a pluck into Fountain. That's very prominent here. Rama takes the skies, doesn't get too much off of it. And you see that again, as soon as he's caught out, just turn on the Death Gaze and try and heal out of it. And we do see the Titan go the way of Team Rising Sun.
Team Rising Sun take the set 2-0. The first game of the week 1 going towards Rising Sun. A very powerful performance, even with a sub on both sides. A very dominant performance coming both from that ADC lane and the jungler, I would say. Being able to show off what they could do and potentially how much of a threat they could be into this competition.